All right, we're live. Well, thank you guys for coming to the SCB 10X DeFi Virtual Summit 2022. My name is Jason. I'm the founder of Foley's Ventures, a pack-focused Web3 fund. And today with me is Shiti, the CMO of StepN. Shiti, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jason. Thank you. So glad to be here. Looking forward.
Yeah. Likewise, I'm very glad that Jerry and Jan were sending you around to the world because personally, I think you're a fantastic speaker, and I think the listeners are in for a treat.
Hi. Thank you for your kind words. Let's see.
Maybe just to start, for those that don't know, tell us a bit more about Step and the project, and also tell us more about the inspiration, the vision, and the goal of what's behind this project.
Lovely. That's my favorite part of the conversation. So let's begin. So StepN, for anyone who's been living under a rock, dare I say, is a Web3 Move-to-Earn project with a mission to nudge millions, if not billions, towards a healthier lifestyle, while connecting them to Web3 in a way that we contribute positively towards carbon neutrality. So those are the three main goals, mission, and vision of StepN. We're doing that with we're onboarding non-crypto users for the first time, who are creating their first crypto wallets, who are buying their first NFTs, who are now using these incentives to walk, jog, and run in a way they hadn't before, and they hadn't in a long time. And that's been the biggest achievement, if I can say, for StepN.
Yeah, and it's only been around for a couple months, right? And it's already live on iOS and Android.
That's true. So the app is already live on Google Android store as well as Apple App Store. You can simply download it. It's as easy as any other app out there. In fact, easier than some. And all you need to do is just get an NFT sneaker and then just do your thing, walk, jog, or run. And just like that, with socialify and gamify elements, we are able to create habit loops. So I've done fitness startups before, and the thing with fitness startups is the problem is not growth. The problem is retention. And for retention to happen, results need to happen. For results to happen, there need to be habits and accountability. And that is sort of the problem or the gap that we seem to be fulfilling. We're creating these habit loops where people come back again and again to run, to jog, to walk. The incentives could just be the app rewards. The incentives could be meeting their friends or social group that they do in the groups. The incentives could be spending the time with their family. The incentives could be just enjoying their local scenery. But that builds a nice adrenaline loop, or the incentive loop, or the social loop that we keep introducing with new game features and keep building on.
Yeah. And talking about features, the game used to be only live on Solana and Binance Smart Chain. And then if for those who have been paying attention, I think recently you guys launched with Bored Ape on Ethereum. Can you tell us a bit more about just how that idea came to be? And then is there anything else we should expect on the BD front?
Yeah, of course. So just zooming out one step back before that, we studied B2C startups and the way they were built, both conventional, unconventional, traditional, and Web3. And one thing that is common to B2C startups or direct-to-consumer startups is that we start small. We start with a niche, we serve them well, and then we ladder up, we grow from there, keep expanding the audience, keep expanding the user base, because that way you know exactly what your audience wants, you build out those features, you scale the infrastructure accordingly, and you keep serving, you keep doubling down on the user needs. That's the model we have followed. So we started with one chain, Solana. We served them well. Then we introduced another chain called BSC. We introduced another collaboration with ASICS. We dropped over 2,000 sneakers and was massively overstaked with about 190,000 bits. Then now we have introduced the chain of chains, Ethereum. So the most prestigious projects are based on Ethereum. There's no other community better than BAYC community to join hands with to welcome them in StepNverse. And that was the attempt of launching on Ethereum. So inclusiveness, making sure that we're welcoming newer communities that can bring benefit into StepNverse and StepN Fold, and making sure that StepN grows in a healthy, sustainable way. So this,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So this is the launch that we call this third realm. These scaling efforts are called as realms. Realms are the nomenclature we've just given, where we fork the game into mini narratives, where users can completely own the game on a new chain with completely new look and feel, new game mechanics. So it keeps the interest going, it keeps the vibrant energy going. And with Ape Realm, we sort of incorporate elements of brands, new communities, and principle of inclusiveness, therefore constantly keeping our eye on the prize, which is to be the bridge between Web 2 and Web 3.
And we saw that there are a lot of ape holders seem to be pretty excited about it. You know, they definitely tweeted about it, and they got the shoes. I don't know. You probably see it in the background. Like, do you actually see the guys who own the ape? They claim the shoes. Are they actually running in the background, or are they just sort of like selling directly?
No. Not at all. In fact, the percentage of selling on the market is small, so they're clearly treasuring the NFTs. Also, one proof of interest was the number of ape holders that claimed, which was over 2,000 in a matter of few hours, or just about 2,000 BAYC holders claimed their NFTs. So there was clearly an interest and exuberance in the community. This further brings attention to our older realms as well. So in a way, it's a win-win for both the older realms, the older chains, as well as the newer chains.
That's great. I personally very much look forward to it. I have a bunch of shoes myself. I'm almost getting to level 5, and I'm ready to make some babies. You know, it should be quite dope. And it's a good segue. You know, because these shoes are somewhat financialized, right? They are directly generative of the GST within that specific server. The price of Bitcoin and Ethereum were down, 50-60% from all-time high. I think the practitioners would say that the industry had entered into a potential bear market. How has the crypto winter affected you guys so far, and what kind of opportunities do you see in this downturn?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think not just StepN, as an industry, we're dealing with it, as a world, we're dealing with it. So I always approach one step back. So this is probably the first time that we're residing under an equities bear market. So it's not simply a crypto bear market, it is a bear market. And I'm scared to say the R word, but maybe we're there. We're already in recession, isn't it? So, there's lots that's driving it at a macro scale. So there is obviously COVID supply suppression in China, there is a war going on in Europe, and in the US, you've got inflation and the amount of money printed that's been insane. So 3 big economic centers of the world reeling under some enormous macro conditions, not to mention the things that are going with euro, yen, Asia in terms of economy. So yes, the markets are tough. Now at StepN, we've been preparing. We have a sizable war chest in terms of the Q2 profits that we just declared to the tune of $122 million. And we're preparing to deal with it by investing in security and servers, so preventing all potential attacks. We've had a fair bit of share of our own DDoS attacks, so a lot of investment goes there. We're preparing cutting edge, bleeding edge AI systems for anti-cheating. As you can imagine, for somebody in our position, preventing cheating is core to having a fair gameplay, and we're obsessive about it. So we're deploying right from federated learning to machine learning, and in a way that our algorithms are always learning with the data that we don't store at our end. Number 3, expanding the team. For a startup, that's an obvious one. We want to ensure that we have a full pipeline of exciting products, not just in StepN app, but in adjoining spaces. So for example, our own decentralized exchange that we just launched called Door. There are a few initiatives that are lined up in both social and NFT marketplaces, so watch out for that. Then, not to mention the sponsorship in spaces that are core to us and adjacent to us, so sports, entertainment, offline events. which are on brand for StepN. And last but not the least, starting our own physical merchandise to sort of get our brand out there for Web2 adoption. So yes, we have areas marked for where we believe that our investment should go to, and we're accordingly have a sizable war chest for that. And at the end of it, I must say that behind all of these efforts is a single accruing thread of GMT, which is where we accrue all the value back from all the products, initiatives, and partnerships that we do. And that unifying thread is GMT. So that is how the ecosystem of StepN is glued together. As a final thought on bear market, and this is where, if you may allow me to go a little bit meta, is some of the biggest companies have been built in this market, right? From 2008 Airbnb to 2004 Facebook to 2009 Uber, or back in the day, Microsoft in 75. And one thing that is common to all of these companies, other than the bear market, is the ability to adapt and build. For example, who would have thought that we would hit almost 900,000 daily active users about 6 months ago? But we did. Who would have thought that we would launch a decentralized exchange? A humongous effort on its own. All startups are built on that. Not only did we do that, we got number one on Solana. Then we got number one on Ethereum chain. So we did that. And equally, we will not watch these macro and micro conditions. We will adapt to these situations, and we will build the products in the way that I said, which accrue value back to GMT and are aligned with mission and goals of building the bridge between Web2 and Web3.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty strong testament to once you have the traffic and the volume, the captive audience, you can sort of really sort of enjoy their tick rate. And sort of keep the economic, and we're going to touch on it, very shortly. I suppose to the point of GMT earnings, I think the community has been complaining, or we have heard about complaints about just the GST itself is extremely hard to stabilize. But I guess from my vantage point is, as long as you build a robust enough ecosystem and the value sort of accruing back to the GMT itself, that's the second tier token people get to earn. And, I think GST is almost like a transitory step before people start earning GMT. And maybe once that's turned on, the complaints you hear about would be, I guess, a lot less than what it is today.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jason. And may I also add that sustainability is also about the value that is brought to users. Mm-hmm. And there are different kinds of users that are coming to StepN Fold, fortunately. There is obviously crypto users, there is obviously gamers, but there is a big chunk of non-crypto users and non-gamers. There's fitness users and even non-fitness users. And value being brought to all of these users differ in varying amounts. For them, some of them, it is investment, which we will serve, like you mentioned with our GMT earnings. For a lot of them, it is about habit creation and incentives about fitness. I mean, there's a website called stepnworld.com, beautiful initiative by community, which we have nothing to do with, unfortunately. I mean, as a marketer, I would have wanted to lead that effort, but completely done by community, where you will see there are events happening in New York, LA, Miami, Athens, Taipei, Korea, Melbourne, Sydney, 2 in the UK that I attended, like all over the world, completely driven by community, driven by a sense of purpose, belonging, empowerment, that social fitness, health component that I've been talking about. My Twitter feed is full of people with their health transformation journey, with StepN transformation journey. So there is, I'm not saying that is the only segment that we're going to serve, but that is also a sizable segment. And as we increase our adoption in Web2, that will hopefully keep increasing. And that is also a gap that StepN is seeking to fill. And going on with our initiatives of adding collaborations, partnerships, and with additional revenue streams coming from DEX, we will be able to accrue value back to GMT as well, with in-app rewards, with giveaways, and we will then serve our original audience as well.
Yeah, and when you look at a number of users within this ecosystem, it's probably a couple million monthly active, and then am I correct that you're now at 1 million daily active paying users?
Yes. Almost touching there, and about 2.5 million monthly active users.
Yeah, and the challenge for Web3 is always onboarding actual people to use the product and then getting them to jump through a lot of hoops to get the fiat into the system. Do you feel like 1 million is the ceiling, and what are you planning to do to sort of drive it further up, if
Oh,
any?
not at all. I don't think there's the question of ceiling even comes into play. Like it's simple math. We have activation code system in place. If there was ever a worry about growth or rate of growth, we simply need to pull away the activation code system. We simply need to remove this, and the game will run wild, and maybe not sustainably so. So once again, we have always prioritized the core fundamental elements of game economy, such as sustainability, such as stable growth, over fast accelerated growth that may cause crash and burn to the ecosystem. So we are going to watch carefully there. There are something that you alluded to is our growth flywheel that we want to preserve and protect as we launch other products as well. But very simply, we believe that we have an easy onboarding system for people onto Web3 rail, for people onto health and fitness. This easy onboarding is the result why a third of our users are non-crypto, why people are just onboarding their mom, dad, mom-in-laws in the events as we see. Through this onboarding system, that habit creation loop comes into play through gamified elements, through social elements. Through those gamified elements, we have a strong, empowered community, which then becomes our foundation to get into brands and collaboration, which further brings into the new users in the ecosystem, who then onboard new users. So this is a beautiful flywheel of growth that we have. And this is the machine, or this is the code we seem to have cracked. See, that is what startups at the end of the day are all about. They're all trying to fix scrappy mechanism, but there's one thing they uniquely excel at, and at StepN, this is that's wonderful flywheel of growth, thanks to our product and community, thanks to our gamified elements and community. And this is why we will never have a ceiling, an artificial, a genuine ceiling of growth. Yes, we can have artificial caps that we put ourselves for sustainability of the ecosystem. But as we unlock newer products, newer gameplays, newer collaborations, newer social elements, we will keep unlocking these ceilings. As we see fit.
And this is an addendum to the sort of onboarding question, and I kind of just thought of it. The challenge remains still, I have to KYC ML through an exchange and then bring dollars to your app, right? And how challenging do you think eventually would be to make the onboarding experience native in-app directly? In the sense that, I have Apple Pay, why can't I KYC ML through this and just pay you directly?
This is such a lofty question, and almost like a PR trap for us. So I want to say so much more on this one. No, Jason, I mean, this is where you're hitting on the nail on its head. We're actively thinking about it, and there are a few solutions in the pipeline. At the moment, I'm not at liberty to disclose. So enough said, but there are things that we're thinking and implementing in the app. And once those things come into play and are launched, the onboarding will become as simple as there ever was.
Amazing. It's not a trap, I promise you. And aside from your own, because I definitely see it, I think versus the other apps, StepN chose a path of integrating a few of the core financial infrastructures that can be protocols of their own, but you just chose to build it yourself. Your NFT marketplace, your DEX. Are there any other exciting development initiatives that you think your fans would want to know of or be aware of?
Yes, this brings us to a very interesting question of how StepN thinks, right? Or where we are in our journey. Of course, there's a roadmap on our website that sort of gives and alludes to details of things that are coming up, such as NFT marketplaces. So it's just some of the social elements. There are features we prioritize, deprioritize actively, depending on how macro and micro are. But I want to give slightly a bigger picture over here and the way we think. Our mental model is essentially built on, well, what I call is 4 pillars. The first one is establish, second one is growth, third one is unlock, and fourth one is accrue. When I say establish, I mean establishing the brand StepN and taking mind share of the consumers, both in Web 2 and Web 3. Partnering with IPs, partnering with world-class consumer technology brands, sponsoring sports events, entertainment events, offline events, selling our own merchandise and beverages is all part of that. They're all experiments within this established phase. I think within this phase, we've done the 0 to 1, and we're on our 1 to 10 journey and doing decently well. The second model is the pillar of growth. This is where we talk about continuing to grow StepN as a Web3 consumer brand, which focuses on delivering entertainment and social experiences, both of them built on blockchain technology in a way that users have access, not just access, ownership to their digital assets, in a way that users can build network effects and community like never before, in a way that blockchain is handling all the transactions in a transparent, fair and square manner. And therefore growth is going to be led by these entertainment and social experiences. The third phase I call is the unlock model, where we're going to be introducing more interesting and unique gameplays and social experiences for our users. I guess this would be the most user interfacing phase of our development. There are lots of things lined up, very transactional things like that I alluded to, building easier onboarding, but also very fun, cool elements of how we introduce social elements in the app. And then last but not the least, pillar is accrue. And that is where all of the efforts that we do in the establish, grow, and unlock phase are the efforts that are accruing back to the token of GMT, which is the unifying thread through the StepN. So none of these pillars are sequential. They're all happening in parallel, in tandem. And this is what is unique about StepN, because we've achieved progress of, may I say, 6 years, if not 60, in 6 months, right? So we're actively, constantly monitoring ourselves, delivering value, launching new products, and making them number one. So StepN has time and again, our team has proven its mettle, has proven its capability. We've rewritten the playbook of growth, growing so fast in Web3. We've taken on traditional fintech models, companies that have been around 6 decades. And we've introduced the gameplay in an easier manner, making some of the new people come onto Web3 with their first wallets. And we will continue to do that. So we have absolutely no doubt that in the coming months, bear market or not, we will be one of the strongest projects out there.
Amazing. That's helpful. And I guess even with the shoes, right, the NFTs, we have a couple minutes left. We could probably talk about the utility of NFTs as a whole, right? Within StepN itself, the utility is that it's a product to generate in-game currency through proof of work. Upon discussion with the team and yourself, I think you guys, are there any other utility you guys could think about introducing to the shoes aside from the sort of GST or GMT earning power that you think, the users might enjoy having? Yeah.
Again, that's such a lofty question that I want to talk so much more about, but that is behind the core of our thinking in the products that we launch. So we've alluded to things like Launchpad, to marketplaces as we go forward. Now, in the current state of play, as in the larger NFT ecosystem, I think utility is slightly lacking. And at StepN, we've clearly proven our ability to add utility to NFTs and therefore take them to mainstream. So that is the layer that we're going to play an exceedingly well role in. What are the characteristics that make NFT so valuable? In my head, they're transparency, indivisibility, transferability, and interoperability. And the use cases broadly are 2 kinds. One is secular, which is limited to NFT ecosystem and The second one is broad, which have applications for larger humanity. In secular, examples are staking, exclusive benefits, redeemability, breeding, membership, etc. And that is phase one. But as we move into the next phase, that of broader utility, broader usage for humanity, that is when we get into potential with authentication, IP, real estate, ticketing, voting, insurance, music, etc. So as technology matures, we will discover more use cases, we will add utility to NFTs, and teams that have the capability to do so will thrive. At StepN, dare I say, we have proven our capabilities in adding that layer of utility, not just for us, and we will try and replicate this for other projects and other NFTs as well.
Got it. I guess with the StepN shoes themselves, like it's too early to say what other utility you guys plan to introduce. Because I, at least personally, I was hoping, at some point, if I have a series of shoes, it's basically my membership to get access to very special perks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so token gating is a perfect example, and we are considering that with all the collaborations and brand partnerships that we're building. So that's a wonderful, wonderful use case that we can do live here and now, and surely under consideration, not to mention personalization and other features that can be built with utility. So for sure, watch out. For anyone out there, here is the plug. Please follow our Twitter for live updates and some interesting contests that we do. We've recently launched a partnership with Ledger. Or follow our Discord for real-time updates on what StepN as a project is doing.
Great. And maybe lastly, for those that listen, I think they're going to probably lynch me without asking for some alpha that you may leak, whether it's the new realms or, I know you have a whole team sort of probably watching over you. So to whatever extent you feel comfortable disclosing, if there's anything we should be on the lookout for, in the next couple.
Okay. Okay. Lovely. Thank you so much, Jason. No, it's my pleasure. So we're going to launch an exciting contest for our community where we are, the whole thing that I explain about how we believe we add value to the health and social components outside. We want the community to tell us about that, right? So all that I see in just my feed about transformation, we want people to be rewarded for that. So we were very soon going to announce a contest where people can actually just share their videos, about 10 to 30 seconds, and stand a chance to win. So we will launch this as an ongoing series of events. First month, we will take the theme of local scenery. Second month, we will take the theme of their fitness transformation. Third month, we will take the theme of what they do with their family. So this is just one of the things that is scratching the surface of StepN verse. Like I said, there is more to come, and stay tuned. Yeah, very exciting. Shiti, I want to thank you for your time today and for giving us this session. And for those that are interested, join our Discord, follow Twitter, and a lot of exciting things ahead. Thank you so much, Jason. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I mean, you're one of the OGs in the Web3 gaming space. So even your questions are quite insightful. It's just that of utility on sneakers or token gating. And it's always good to bounce ideas around. It's always good to listen what community has to say. And it's always a pleasure to be here and talking about StepN. That's special. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much.